Okay. Is Major here by any chance? I don't see. Major unfortunately has been sick. He's been really, really sick. So I just hope that he's better now.
What's that?
He, are you here?
Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
No, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he's been a little sick and so I wish him speedy recovery. All right, guys. So welcome to the newbie coding calls with me, Amir Khan. These are weekly calls, and the way we do these calls is some weeks I have a topic that I choose and I talk about that. The calls are 40 minutes, so our hard stop is 40 minutes. They're not going to be extended. And some weeks we have a guest. Today we have a guest, Mr. Judd Hoffman and Beth. I think Beth is going to join us later.
Hopefully Beth is going to join us. She's still putting the girls down. We have little 3 and 4 year old daughters who are
Yeah,
sometimes easier to fall asleep than others.
absolutely. Man, thank you so much. You guys are doing awesome. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. So what we'll do is let's just start when Beth comes in. Maybe we'll pick up on some other things that we can talk about. But let's just talk about your background. Prior to joining Freedom Accelerator program, what was your, background, your job, your W-2, and then how did you find Freedom Accelerator and came into the program and all that. So just give us a little background, please.
Yeah, sure. I'm in upstate New York, just north of Albany. I've been a New Yorker my whole life, but an upstate New Yorker, which we like to qualify. It's not New York City, it's north of New York City. And it's actually more like the Midwest and some of the markets that we work in than New York City. So before getting into real estate and SlowFlips, I, like Amir, was a music teacher. My training is in music education. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in that, and taught in public schools for 16 years. Most recently, teaching beginner band, so hot cross buns to fourth and fifth graders, which is Twinkle Twinkle and all that good stuff. And then about 6 years ago, I decided I needed to get my life together, and one of the best ways to do that was to settle down and try to find someone to have a long-term relationship or marriage with that might lead to kids, might not. So I started doing what all the millennials do and started swiping, and an app called Bumble. I miraculously matched with a beautiful woman named Beth, and kind of the rest is history. But on our first date, Beth told me, we're kind of sharing interests, and she told me about a podcast that she listened to called Bigger Pockets, and me wanting to, impress this wonderful new person in my life. I went home and I listened to some of these podcasts, and it kind of clicked. My dad raised me on the Dave Ramsey model of conservative, budgeting and finances, and I was very, very good at that. But then also, some of the bigger pockets things made sense as far as buying rentals and doing the burr. So, anyways, it all started just trying to impress Beth, and then one thing led to another. So she was house hacking at the time. So she owned a 3 family that she was living in and then renting the other 2. And she had done a few flips when she was younger, and then was starting to get into buying more rentals. She also worked in education, I can say now. She was most recently the head of early childhood services for our local YMCA, which has about 25 locations. And Beth was in charge of the little ones, so 6 weeks to 6 years old. And so on our dating journey and then marriage, we acquired a few more rentals. So we've done long-term rentals, and then a co-living house, which is we bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house and added a bathroom and added 3 bedrooms by walling off the dining room and the living room and the den, and then we rent that by the room. So that cash flows great. And then we lived in a 3-family that we Airbnb'd the other 2 units, and that cash flowed well. And then stumbled on SlowFlips via Pace Morby's sub group. She's a part-time agent here in New York, and she joined up with a bunch of other agents. And one of them is this guy, Phil Duke from Tuscaloosa, and Phil had read Scott's book and sort of taught us a little bit about SlowFlips. And then as soon as we talked about it, the ads start popping up in Facebook and everywhere. And so we joined the group like that. And it was in November of 23, which I think, Amir, is about when you joined. It was maybe in the early stages of a large influx
Yeah,
of new folks into the group.
that's right.
And so that was 2023. So I'll stop there before I continue with
Yeah,
SlowFlips.
no,
Any
thank you
questions?
so much. That was a great background. Now, guys, as we go along, please do not put your questions in the chat. I can't keep up with that. If you have a question, click on React and raise your hand, and we'll get your questions. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand as early as now, because as soon as we get towards the end, I'll start taking questions from you guys. All right, that was awesome. So, I mean, from this sounds like you and Beth, maybe Beth a little bit more, has had some, background in real estate and had some experience in real estate. So that's very good. But I'm curious, because you were doing so many different things. What was it that you were looking at SlowFlip at that time?
SlowFlips caught our attention because like Scott says, being the bank makes sense. We were good at we are good at doing the long-term rentals. We got good at doing a co-living house. We got good at short-term rentals. I think some of that, looking back, and is a little bit of shiny object syndrome of bouncing from one to the other. We did very well, and probably I think we would have been successful scaling any of those. But SlowFlips, the same reason, probably everybody's here, is that the idea of being the bank, the idea of not being a landlord, and having long-term passive income to get some level of financial freedom. It seemed more real and tenable with SlowFlips than with any of the other avenues.
Okay,
And it's still.
so yeah, sorry. So let's just do you have slides that you want to show us so that we can talk about your first slow flip?
Sure.
But as you're queuing that up, what I want to do, what is most beneficial for everyone on the call, some people are new, some people have more experience, and then we have heavy hitters, right? Kevin here. Hi, nice to see you, Kevin. The point is that for their reference, they want to know, what was it like when you were trying to get your first deal under contract, right? And that's why we are doing this session. And so, and I think that will help if you can, yes, share your screen and tell us about your first deal. And yeah, go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
But
great.
there's no slides. It's just your
There's a big
back.
QR code on there.
No, it's just a background. We see a very nice forest with a little fog.
That's nice. I'm gonna stop that and try again, because I once I get it, it's good, but I'm not always great at this technology stuff.
No worries. And that sometimes does happen. So it might have to. Okay, yeah, I see the QR code.
Nice. Small sales pitch. If we'll talk a little bit about wholesaling. Beth and I have started wholesaling. If you want to be on our email list, you can hop on there. But what I have is just a few slides that, in the spirit of and I can go back to that at the end if anybody wants. In the spirit of the name of the show, my first slow flip, or our first slow flip, I just put down a little bit about us, and then a little bit about just one of our properties that was our very first slow flip. Amir, just holler at me anytime if you want to cut in, or if I'm going too slow or too fast.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so a little bit about us. Again, we live in Saratoga Springs, just north of Albany. We have two daughters, Angelina and Isla are 3 and 4. I say I'm a recovering teacher, but every time I've talked to several of you on the phone, and you know that I can't help but from trying to be helpful and trying to teach. And so we're somewhat experienced real estate investors, which I always point out, because any newbies on the call who are coming in and have never done anything in real estate, there is a learning curve there. We came in, and even though SlowFlips are new, we knew at least the jargon and had some idea of how financing works and inspections work and things like that. So again, our investing experience is there. And then our current SlowFlip portfolio, to give you an idea of what we've done in the last 22 or 14 months, rather, just over a year. We currently own 8 SlowFlips. We have 1 more under contract that should close in another week. 4 of those are free and clear, and then 4, and then it will be 5 have a loan. We'll talk a little bit about free and clear later on. Slow sailing is what Scott is calling it now. So it's wholesaling within the group. And so last year we had 18 assignments in 2024. And I can talk a little bit about how we like accidentally became wholesalers. And things are really taking off. So we actually right now have 9 that are currently assigned and in escrow, which is just very, very exciting and huge. And hopefully we'll have more coming soon. So if you're looking, we usually post those in available deals within school. So here's our very first slow flip. We joined in November of 23, and Beth found this gem through Joey, who's in the group. Most of you know, I'm sure you've all heard of. And Joey, I don't even know if he posted this. Beth reached out and said, hey, we're looking. And so after about a month in the group, we bought this. He was selling for, I guess we'll do the numbers on the next page, but this is a picture of 4665 Corte. This is kind of like a classic Scott Jelinek slow flip. Excuse me. It's in St. Louis. It's right around the $30,000 mark. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, just over 1,000 square feet. Built in 1928. If you don't know the history of St. Louis, you should look it up. Penrose neighborhood, not the nicest neighborhood, but not the roughest neighborhood either. And the history, by the way, again, I can't help myself. In the teens and 20s, there was like a huge influx of mostly German and Polish immigrants, and along with them came their masons, and these guys knew how to build houses. So anytime you see one of these brick houses, especially in St. Louis, just it's usually built to last. So there we go, how we found it. And again, there's just some pictures of the inside. Joey from the group, and he provided us with photos, videos, and notes from Ken Keel, who's everybody's favorite boots on the ground. It was an off-market deal. It sold for $32,000, and it was filled within a week by the filling team for $3,000 down, $895 a month, and a $79,000 purchase price. So again, those are probably right around average, maybe slightly above average for what we've seen out of St. Louis. Now, in the last year, I think we've seen our purchase price creep up a little bit on these houses, but the sales, the slow foot numbers are the same. An interesting thing about that 32,000, especially if you're new and you keep hearing about wholesaling or slow sailing, and you hear about assignment fees, Scott preaches, not to count the money in somebody else's pocket. This deal was our first kind of foray into that world of wholesaling, where previously, like the word wholesaler was like a dirty word. I don't know how the rest of you felt before you got into slow flips, but we had never worked with wholesalers and kind of frankly looked down on that part of the business. And things have certainly taken a change as far as that goes. But of the 32,000, the original purchase price on the house was 23. And then the original guy who got it, he tacked on $2,000 and gave it to somebody else, and he tacked on $2,000. They gave it to Joey. Joey tacked on $5,000, and so we paid $9,000 in assignment fees out of that 32. That's called daisy chaining, when you have one wholesaler, flipping it to the next, flipping it to the next. So it worked out fine. A little bit more. What happened since then, the fillers filled it very quickly to a woman, we'll call her Jane. Jane was lovely, but she was completely unequipped to be a homeowner. We followed Scott's plan of not vetting, no background checks, anything like that. And if we had done that, we wouldn't have nothing would have turned up, because she was perfectly clean on paper. But Jane had been a renter her entire life. And I think that all of her friends and all of her family had been renters their entire lives. And she had no idea how to care for a house. She, she she got an occupancy inspection, and it came back with 10 or 11 items. One of them was that the furnace needed attention or something like that. And she was afraid to go in the basement. This is like 2 months in. She was afraid to go in the basement. Oh no, Mr. Judd, I'm not going in the basement. I said, Jane, you have to go in the basement. But you gotta tell me what's going on with that furnace. And I can coach you on how to get someone involved. And those of you paying close attention, right there is a red flag, because following Scott's plan to a T, I would not have even gotten that involved, right? It would have said, gotta call a furnace person, figure it out, Jane. But being the supposedly helpful teacher I am, I couldn't help myself. So I said, you got to go down there. And Jane didn't know the difference between a furnace and a hot water heater. That's how bad it was. She had a broken window that needed to be fixed for the inspection. She didn't know she didn't know how to replace a window, which is fine, but she didn't know who to call. I said, Jane, you have to go to Google and search window replacement near me. Completely unequipped to be a homeowner. So not surprisingly, she struggled to pay for the repairs. She struggled to pay for her monthly payments. We let her get behind. Again, we let her get too far behind before we started the eviction process. So Jane finally moved out right around Christmas time of 24, just recently. She owed and still owes us about $4,000. We'll probably never see that, and that's okay, because she did two things. She left the house in decent condition, which is helpful, and she started sending us leads, knowing that we'll pay a referral fee for a house that we end up buying or assigning. So she sent us like 20 leads that Beth is working, and if any of those pay out, we'll certainly credit that towards her her balance that's due. So we got Jane out of there, and then in moves Mark. Beth had posted this and filled it right before any of the fillers filled it, which is kind of nice to be able to keep the entire down payment. The numbers were the same, except I think Mark only paid $2,500 down and $875 a month. So pretty similar numbers. Mark seems awesome. He was wary of the whole process and of sending us money, and so we coordinated with Laura, is an attorney, and she was able to help him sign and verify that he was who he was, verify that we were who we were, so that he was comfortable sending funds and signing the paperwork. So he's up and going. I can let you know in a few days if he's paid on time for his first payment, but he has construction knowledge. He works maintenance for a local hospital, so there's a little bit of work to do to make the house more comfortable and more livable for him. So I think he's going to do that and then move his family in soon if he hasn't already. So that's the story with Corte, our very first slow flip. It's been a good one. And then just a couple things that we've learned on this journey that may be helpful. Following Scott's T's, the biggest headaches came when we didn't follow it to a T. The best evidence of that is trying to be too helpful towards Jane, as we're calling her, in terms of helping her figure out those repairs and letting her get far enough behind in the payments that we weren't going to see it. Second, free and clear is the goal. So we're able to buy 4 of those houses free and clear. One of the ways that we did that is by finding our own deals. And so one of those we bought for $8,500. Another we bought for $20,000. So when you're doing the math based on $30,000 purchase price, you can see how it's going to go. But when you're able to get your own deals or get them like well below market value, that's like super, that's a superpower. Net monthly cash flow for us, it's been a little closer to 650 or even 750 rather than what Scott says. And he even said that at the summit, if you were there. 500 is just a nice number for doing math. Again, sourcing your own deals has been a superpower. Way better margins, also more control of the deal. We didn't have a problem with that first deal, getting Joey and then the 2 other wholesalers, but we've seen mostly from the outside. We haven't really been involved, but from the outside, that having more people involved in deals can create communication complications and can get messy. If you need bonus income, there's fantastic opportunities within the group wholesaling or filling deals for extra cash to help you get your first slow flips is awesome. We fell into wholesaling. We ran out of money pretty quickly after we bought 3 slow flips, but we were still finding good deals. Beth is an MLS an agent here, and so she was like calling every agent in St. Louis, and we're still finding good deals. And even though we couldn't buy them, we said, well, why don't we just post them? So we started off with literally like $1,000 assignment fees, assigning them within the group, and that went well enough that we raised our assignment fees and we're finding better deals, and then eventually started going direct to seller and doing some of our own marketing for that. And it's just been fantastic. Doing 18 deals last year, after previously thinking that wholesalers were scummy, is a fantastic turnaround that I'm very proud of. Integrity matters, especially in wholesaling when you're dealing with low value properties. Especially with slow flips when you're dealing with tenant buyers who are sometimes struggling, sometimes in distress. Our sellers are sometimes in distress, and being honest, open, communicative, I think has been one of the keys to help Beth and me be successful. Ask for help. There's always someone who's been there before. If you have 0 slow flips, you think that my 8 or 9 is impressive. I have 8 or 9 slow flips. I think somebody on here who's got 100 is impressive. So along the way, there's always someone who's been there before, and who can help you out. And I struggle to ask for help. Thankfully, my wife, the real brains behind the operation, is very good at asking for help and encouraging me to do so. And then finally, the fortune is in the follow-up. Stay consistent and keep the conversations going. So whether it's a seller that we're trying to get a deal from, sometimes we have to call these people 20 or 30 times before they pick up. Maybe it's your slow flip, your contract buyer who's hasn't paid and is ghosting you. You still got to follow up. You still have to follow up. Try to keep the conversation moving. Maybe it's somebody in the group who you've asked for help, and after reaching out once, they didn't respond and they're very busy, and that's okay. Ask again, and then ask again, and then ask again. And they'll probably get back to you and say, hey, I'm really sorry, I was very busy, but here's what I would do. And then they'll help you with their problem. So the fortune in the follow-up is a saying that I've really been taking to heart. I hope you've enjoyed those 7 or 8 tips. Those are some of the big things that we've learned. And I think, Amir, that's all of our slides. So I'll go back to this one for a minute if anybody wants to hop on our mailing list.
Perfect. So before we start taking questions, like I said, one more time, guys, if you want to ask questions, click on React and raise hand from there, and then I'll call on you. So Judd, thank you so much. See, that's the benefit of inviting somebody like you, who's a teacher. Who knows? I don't have to ask any questions. You just got it, and we went through that really well. Thank you so much. That was a very good overview. Yes, we'll ask questions about filling as well, but let's just go to questions because I think that would be the most exciting thing. So the first on my left is Jenny. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Please keep it short because this call is limited to 40 minutes. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So Judd, thank you. That was awesome. How many hours a week do you spend wholesaling? I mean, is it like 40 hours, like full time, or is it part time for you?
So Beth, it's probably 30 hours for each of us at this point. Beth was able to step away from her job with the Y just over a month ago. And I drop the girls off at 9. Beth picks them up at 4, and we're working pretty solidly. So that's about 35 hours each. And then inevitably, especially dealing in markets that are in Central Time, we're still getting phone calls and communication trickling in at 5, 6, 7 o'clock that I usually handle. I'll step away from the girls. We look forward, Jenny, in another few years, especially in 5 years when these start being paid off, of scaling that down. One thing I didn't talk about, but our journey to financial freedom is not like a binary situation. So there are milestones along the way. A huge milestone was me stepping away from teaching. A huge milestone was Beth stepping away from teaching. And then we're gonna scale down from working 40 hours a week, hopefully down to 30, 20, 10. And then I guess at a certain point we'll have to declare that we're financially free. But changing kind of my mindset of shooting for short milestones instead of just I have my 50 slow flips, we're free, has been important.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, Jacob, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. So are you or anyone in this group showing a formula for no matter how cheap you get the house for, say 700 square foot is this price, the end price to the end buyer. Is there any kind of formula for that? And then you mentioned the quality masonry in St. Louis. Are you guys marking up anything for that, or just kind of same price as any other house?
Just like teaching a 9-year-old how to play hot cross buns, it's much it's an art more than a science. I think that probably everybody here knows who Joey is, and Joey, Scott tells you to look at 100 properties before you make an offer and do anything. I've looked at several thousand properties. Joey's looked at probably several 100,000 properties, and so in like 2 seconds he knows what it's going to sell for. I think that the short answer, Jacob, is no. I don't have a formula. The best recommendation I can say is to dig into the available deals section in school, but probably more importantly the sold deals section in school, to see what these houses are selling for. And also filling. If you can get in touch with a filler, or you can fill houses yourself for, whether they're yours or others, you'll get a really good idea of what things are going for. And if there is a formula to be had, I think it's more in what are the slow flip numbers compared to how much can I wholesale this for or sell this for within the group, rather than looking at square footage or building materials or age or anything like that. The only marker that we do look at, I guess, is bedroom count, especially if it's like a potential Section 8 situation.
I've got a formula if I can add to that.
Sure, go ahead, Adam.
Okay, sure. So what I've been doing is, Scott says to shoot for the stars on the pricing, and then work down accordingly based on the interest level you're receiving. But what I've found is, I'll just look for the average rents. Say the average rent is $1,000 per month, and I'll say, okay, well, what is the insurance and taxes going to run on this property? Say hypothetically it's $150. Subtract $150 from that 1,000 average, and then multiply that number by 115. And I don't have a calculator on me right now, so I don't know if anybody could do the math on that real quick. 850 times 115, and that will typically give you about roundabout price as to what your tenant buyer can afford. And then you could just add the down payment on top of that, the 3,000 on top of that. That tends to work pretty good.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you so much. Would you be able to put that in the chat so everybody can see that, if you don't mind? Thank you for doing that.
Yep. No
Appreciate
problem.
it, Adam.
No worries.
Next up is Eric. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. One question, please. Keep it short.
Sure. I appreciate it. Judd, I saw you're in the mastermind. I just joined that, so I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys and whatnot. So definitely making me, move forward with this. So I noticed that first deal, looks like you lost money. Obviously, it was sourced from your own funds, but between the sourcing of the deal and having it marked up and whatnot, and then her leaving, first of all, I just want to confirm that is the case, and that's part of my fear is losing money based on someone leaving and whatnot. Was that the case for you?
I think that with her down payment, and then with the down payment that we just got in, if that was all in the same account, we're actually about even, or maybe a little bit ahead. It's close, and one thing, Eric, I'll say is that I'm like the overthinker of the group, and I'm sure there's a lot of us in here. Every marriage probably has an overthinker. If Beth was running our business, we would have 200 slow flips. If I was running our business, we would have like 0 or maybe 1 slow flip. So I may have lost a little bit, but neither of us have focused on that, and it doesn't matter. Bump in the road.
Awesome. Thank you.
I look forward to connecting in the mastermind. We didn't talk about that, but that's been a huge part of our success as well, was running the mastermind about a year.
Okay, next up is Zach. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, hey, Jude. Thanks for sharing. Really, thanks for sharing your journey. And hi everybody. So I am actually very new. I just joined like last week, and I'm super excited. Actually, this week. Yeah, I'm super excited. So, I'm a complete newbie. So one question that I'm wondering is like when you are transitioning from Jane to Mark, like what is that process look like? Do you need to transfer titles or yeah, if you can share a little bit more about that, that'd be great.
Jane and Beth agreed that she would be out by a certain date. We checked in. She said, "Yep, I'm out." We sent Ken. We sent a boots on the ground to do another walk through the property, just kind of check it out, make sure everything is okay, see if it needed utilities on or to be winterized, anything like that. And then he changed the locks. We sent her just a one-page termination agreement. This was in St. Louis, Missouri. We did not record our contract for deed. If we had, we would have had to record the release of the contract for deed. I don't know what the terminology is there. We haven't done one of those yet. And that was it. Then we had possession of the house again, and we were able to get it filled pretty quickly.
I see. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Welcome, Zach. This is a phenomenal group, man. I'm excited to get to work with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Yeah, I jump on your email list as well.
Right.
Next up is Adam. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Hey, Amir. Real quick, I want to say you did a great job on the presentation at the summit. That was really good, man.
Thank you.
Be
Appreciate
a
it.
public speaker.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And Judd, thank you for sharing that PowerPoint. It was very informative. I just had a quick question for you, Judd. You know how Scott always says not to count the money in another man's pocket, which I completely agree with. What about when you're wholesaling deals with wholesalers? Because they're literally always counting the money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, is there any way you have closings and they fall apart because the wholesaler, gets greedy, or how do you overcome that?
I feel like it's like the gospel of Scott. I try to preach it wherever I go. So we have a situation, one that's an escrow now with a wholesaler, and he said, I'm only making $2,000. I don't even care how much you guys are making. So I said, if we only make $1,000, is that good? He's like, yeah, that's great. I hope you can make more. I said, what if we make like $20,000? Are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, we're gonna make $8,000 on it, and this is our first time working with him. And Adam, I'll keep you posted. But again, we say I'm gonna be totally open and honest with you. We're in here trying to make money. We're gonna do everything that we're saying we're gonna do, but we're gonna try to we're gonna try to market this to sell it. And I think that wholesalers get a bad rap for a reason. That's also maybe allowed. It's been pretty easy for me, Beth, to do well, because all you have to do is like not screw people over, and it seems like you can have success as a wholesaler.
So you're basically just getting their approval, like we're going to make more money than you are on this deal, basically, that kind of thing at a time.
We're saying, listen, we might keep this ourselves, if we can get a lender lined up, or we have several partners that we work with who kind of run a similar model, and they're gonna take it. Either way, we've done this many deals, we've made this much in assignment fees. We're good for our word. You can ask any of these references. You can call these title companies who we've worked with. We're going to close. we prefer, again, I don't, we don't love the daisy chain, but if the deal's there, then, you know, there's money to be, there's money to be made, then let's make it. But
I'm
yeah.
wondering, are you not able to do a seller side HUD, instruct the title company to do seller side HUD, which would restrict them to see what your payout is at closing?
We could, and we've done that. We've done that with direct to seller deals. Where this particular wholesaler, Adam, I don't know if you've run into this, but they like to be very involved in the deal, and I can totally understand why. It's easier to say it's easy to think of like with a seller. So once we get under contract, you know, we may work with one of our partners to buy it, to bring money to the table, or we might bring money to the table. But with a wholesaler, I think that they're all like, they're not all, a lot of them are very skittish about this. It's like, okay, like I've got this under contract. Is this guy going to get it under contract and like shop it out to his list, but he's not actually going to be able to close or anything. So I think that Beth and I are newer to this in some ways. So in a year, you know, hopefully we have relationships with several wholesalers where they're not skittish, and I can give you a more confident answer. But for now, we're still kind of going through that, Adam.
I got you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just didn't know if, you know, sometimes I see maybe you're making a penny more, and now they want to kill the deal or renegotiate and all that.
Dude, another thought. I know, Amir, we're running short on time. The markets we're operating in, St. Louis and Illinois, frankly, Joey has such a strong presence and fantastic relationships with most of the wholesalers that it might not make sense for me and Beth to try to break into that. So we're going to look on the MLS and do that, but we're trying to go, we're trying to find our own deals rather than relying on wholesalers. Because like honestly, what we've learned with working with this, at least this one wholesaler, is like, I don't really enjoy it. Like I would love to do a deal with you. I've done a deal here. I'd love to do a deal with Kevin. Like that's great. That's fun. There can be challenging things that come up, and then you have like a professional adult conversation. Working with this guy hasn't been very fun, so I don't know that we'll do it again.
I think the key is, and Adam, I'm sure you'll agree, is that you're looking for those partners who appreciate that what you're bringing to the table is that your ability to close. That's really the key, because the problem in this industry is that they will have to do this again if you are a flaky buyer. So that the reason why Joey, like Joey says it himself, the reason why he's so successful is that he closes no matter what. So the wholesalers are okay to make less with him because they just do the frequency. They just do so many deals with him that they're happy with that. And I think you just need to find the right partner with the right attitude. Great. Okay, we just have a few more minutes, so I'm just gonna go to Mike. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, so Judd, I just had a quick question because a Section 8 landlord hit me up and he's kind of curious about the deals in the available deals channel. And so that would be my first time filling a property for someone else. But I noticed in Sharon Moore's post that she said she's going to be changing the lockbox code every couple days. Like, do you have like a certain point, like when they say, okay, my boots are on the ground are going to come out, okay, then I'll give you the lockbox code, because it seems like Sharon's like concerned that people are going to take the new furnace, the new water heater that she just put in, kind of thing.
It's a valid concern. Again, if I was running it, we probably wouldn't give the lockbox to anybody. If Beth was running it all, you know, she'd give the lockbox. There's a balance point where after you have a certain level of communication.